this is gonna be a long one, and this is gonna be a controversial one. And just so you know, I've got the window ever so slightly open because otherwise I will boil. So the sound's gonna be worse than usual. Um, Welcome, various and mighty peoples across the grand and mighty spectrums of time, indeed the multiverse. I am Alexander Gordon Johansson, and I am so very, 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 very sorry. Don't watch this at work. Wear headphones and, like, watch the whole thing or don't watch it at all, right? Just, I'm gonna be talking about feminism and about how it needs to improve in getting its point across to disaffected young men. This means that if you are not in the mood to hear what I have to say, there is no point you stopping by. I know the feminist arguments. I know why feminists say this, why feminists say that. I'm not being an MRA here. I am not arguing against feminism. I am not being an anti-feminist. My point... Hold on. My point is that... My point is that we need to communicate better. And I understand entirely that there is a whole load of anger surrounding the issue of why should we care? Why should we pander to these people? Why should we give a shit? And that's what I'm going to try and talk about. But if you're not interested, there's no point you watching this video. And also, like, if you are someone who is watching this video because you want to bring the smack down on the person you think is being anti-feminist, I should warn you, right? The majority of people who watch my videos, or who have for the last year, have basically been Nazis hate watching me. Like, police have had to be called. It's gotten scary at times. So, like, if you are a feminist and you think that you might get angry watching this video, then for the love of God, just, like, for your own safety, don't bother leaving a comment. Because there are vipers in the comment section. And I don't care what you say about me, right? I've said worse things about myself. It's that I don't want things to get explosive in the comment section. Anyway. Yeah. So I'm gonna go and have a drink, and then I'm going to talk about how feminism could improve at getting its point across to disaffected young men. I'm so very, very, very fucking sorry. Because this is not... No way this can go across fucking well. Okay. So, let's explain some things, because if nothing else, I might be able to explain what feminism is for those who watch my videos, hate watching it, and at least then they might be able to understand a little. Okay. So, feminism uses a whole load of language, a whole load of jargon. It can be a bit difficult to get into because it's sort of like computers, except if when you asked about a computer, people got like violently angry that you dare ask about the computer. I mean, this is coming about after having, watched Fight Club, but there is actually kind of a Fight Club mentality to sort of feminism in the sense of you don't talk about feminism, right? Nobody explains themselves because of a whole load of stuff that's built up. Let's start with the basics. What is feminism? Well, it's the idea that kind of, women should be treated equal. Well, why aren't women equal today? Because essentially we still have a society that biases in favour of men and against women. But there is an asterisk associated to that because this bias also affects men negatively. So essentially what is happening is that there is this thing that feminism talks about called the patriarchy. And it is effectively the system of incentives in order to maintain oppressing women and to maintain giving benefits to men, right? And yes, part of this system is sexist individuals who run the system, who are part of how the system functions, right? It's the fact that it's the old boys network. How, oh yes, I mean, hey, but school this fella, he's a very good job. Yes, of course I'm going to give him a job. What are you talking about? But at the same time, if a woman wants to do something, well, she's clearly not qualified. Where's her skills? Um, I think I saw like a marvelous sort of display of the ultimate end of sort of how this works. Like, you compare Marine Le Pen to Donald Trump, and it's like Donald Trump is a complete and utter fucking moron, right? He boasts about committing sexual assault. He is creepy without realizing it. He is so easy to goad into admitting things. Like, he is a complete and utter stinking moron. And he's a fascist. And he's the darling of the fascists in America. Meanwhile, in France, Marine Le Pen is this smart woman. She's got her shit together. She's got arguments. She's plotted her shit out. She's got a targeted strategy of what she's going to do. She tries to never step a foot wrong. She's, riding high on a wave of populist sentiment, and she knows what she's saying, and she's so smart compared to all the other fascists. Because she has to be, because she's a woman, right? And it's like, Nigel Farage succeeds in Brexit. Donald Trump succeeds in becoming president. Marine Le Pen, so much smarter, loses. Because it's just like, women have to work so much harder even at being fascist bastards. I mean, it's impossible to ignore the fact that essentially we had one guy who is like, yeah, I'm gonna press people, and Donald Trump, the whole grab 'em by the pussy thing. I'm being very careful about what I say, by the way, because people have taken things out of context, and they're like, "Huh, why do you always use those strange voices?" Because when I say stuff, people take them out of context. So at least if I'm doing a strange voice, when people put them out of context, it's a bit fucking obvious that it's not fucking me speaking. And then they get annoyed saying, why don't you use your normal voice when you are saying horrible things that you are quoting from other people? It's like, please, just make it easy for us to say that you're a horrible person. And it's like, I am a horrible person. You don't need to use quotes taken out of context of me quoting other people, right? Like, I write Vor. I've annoyed a good deal of trans people through being an ignorant fuckwit. I have been an anti-feminist at one point in time, and I'm currently, facing a coup via testosterone, so I'm not necessarily the most enlightened individual. I have made mistakes. Quite a few mistakes, and I have upset quite a lot of people. You don't need to take shit out of context, but sorry. Tangent aside, not good to be stalked by Nazis who hate your guts. But you know, it is impossible to deny that, like, you know, the Republicans had this whole thing of like, yeah, you know, we're gonna crack down on trans people because it could be used as a way for men to go into bathrooms and sexually assault women. Won't somebody think of the children? And then they elect a guy who boasts about sexually assaulting women over the woman candidate, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of impossible to deny that America is fucking sexist when it's like, yes, we will vote for this incompetent fucking madman who is pledged sexual assault over this woman who is competent and knows what the fuck she's doing. Like, I have problems with Hillary Clinton because she is neoliberalism incarnate, but like, neoliberalism incarnate is better than fascism. You know, a competent woman is better than an incompetent madman. Right? And even if you don't think, even if you don't think that sexism is that bad today, right? Then there have been points in time when sexism was so much worse. When women couldn't work, when women didn't have the right to vote, right? When women were basically traded from man to man as property. Okay, so feminism is just the term for the latest sort of iteration of women saying, oh, for fuck's sake, douchebags, just treat us like fucking people, you cockends. And, you know, I've been an anti-feminist, so I can understand how, as a man in the 21st century, you can look at the world today and think, well, things are pretty equal, you know? And there are things that seem to make it murkier than it might otherwise be. Like, well, we've got equality in the law, and like, women have to be paid equal wage. Yeah, and, you know, also, it's part of our human rights that we're not allowed to be homeless, that we're supposed to have a roof over our head, that we're, you know, there are all these rights that we have that are legally about protecting us and ensuring that we're treated fairly and equally, but in practice, most of the time, governments don't give a shit, right? There are so many homeless people, and how do our councils react? Well, we're gonna make it painful for homeless people to sleep there. You know, fining homeless people huge sums of money, and it's like, well done. All you have done is shown you are moronic shitheads, because these homeless people do not have the money. You are just imposing a tax as a deterrent that makes you look like a shithead. It is not helping the situation. It will not reduce the number of homeless people. It's just making you look like a cockend. And there are all kinds of ways that the society just doesn't give a shit, right? You can have all the rules in the world. It's the people who enforce them matter, right? And it's like, you know, a white man committed rape, and it's like, well, we've got to, you know, let him off because, you know, think of his career. We don't want to we don't want to destroy his career over one mistake, do we? You know, a white woman, you know, attacks her boyfriend, and it's like, well, we've got to think of her career. We don't want to destroy her career, do we? And then a black cop, a white cop kills a black kid on suspicion of stealing a chocolate bar, and when he is called up about it, well, we don't want to destroy his career now, do we? You know, white people are given so much privilege and preference, and like, well, we don't want to destroy their lives. What are you talking about? These are good people. But fuck the black people, right? Because, you know, the black people are getting shot dead left, right, and centre, and when the police who shoot them are called before disciplinary boards, the disciplinary boards just say, well, you know, the white men have futures, so we don't want to throw away the white men's future, do we? I mean, and what about the black men's future, though? What about the black kids that you're gunning down because, well, you know, we don't want to destroy these white men's futures? You know. What about all these black kids who peacefully protest only to get tear gas thrown at them, only to get the riot squad attacking them and inciting riots so they have an excuse to open fire? Time after time we see footage coming out of just white people, white cops fucking over black people. And it's just like, this is a problem. This is a problem. And similarly, like, there are so many statistics about, you know, like, so many women enduring, you know, sexual assault, enduring rape. So many women have experienced, you know, catcalling, and women live basically this life of continual abuse and harassment. And whenever men are called on it, men get defensive, like, what are you talking about? We've done nothing wrong, we've done nothing wrong. And it's like, you know, if a woman gets raped, well, we've got to, you know, we've got to interrogate her. You know, how is she dressed? You know, it's her fault she got raped because she shouldn't have gone down that alley that night dressed like that with that amount of alcohol in her. You know, irresponsible. You know, as if people are sharks and it's like, oh well, you got in the wrong part of the water, mate. It's your own damn fault you got eaten by a shark because you decided to jump in the water slathered in fish guts whilst singing "Come sharky, come eat me sharky shark." Right? We victim blame the women, and then when the men get, you know, then there is just this sense of like, oh no, but the man, you know, the man's being accused of this stuff, and that's so very horrible. And so it's like, you know, the victim comes forward and they are treated like a criminal because, what were you doing? What did you do? How are you to blame for this? A man is accused of rape, and it's like, yes, well, we just want to determine your innocence here. And to a certain extent, yeah, innocent until proven guilty. We absolutely should not be approaching the trials of sex offenders with, well, you know, we're just going to believe what the woman says. But there is a difference between innocent until proven guilty and the man who has been accused of rape we're going to treat as innocent, and the woman who has made the accusation we're going to treat as guilty. Right? Like, surely innocent until proven guilty also applies to the victims of the crime. Nobody, you know, accuses the person of being. Nobody accuses the victim of, or the attempted victim of murder, the victim of attempted murder, as saying, well, you know, what did you do to incite this attempt of murder upon your life, you know? But if it's a woman, well, clearly she was asking for it. There are so many ways in which society controls and manipulates women, you know? The whole abortion debate, right? Yes, I myself acknowledge that there are genuinely there are genuinely difficult conversations and difficult perspectives to be had on the subject of, like, does an unborn child have a right to life, right? I acknowledge that it is not as simple as it's maybe necessarily made out to be, but at the end of the day, it is so fucking creepy how men are controlling women's bodies, right? And the fact that essentially pregnancy is 9 months of hellish torture followed by a horror scene that the woman has to live through. And it's like, you want to force that on a woman when, you know, there is a certain amount of time when effectively it's not ending a life, it's just like smashing an egg, you know. It's just like, it's there isn't life, there isn't consciousness, there isn't even a body, there is just a collection of cells, right? And it's ultimately what you are doing then in that moment is choosing to make a woman endure suffering and hell for 9 months, along with the psychological trauma of giving birth and all of that, for the sake of something that doesn't even exist yet, right? And even outside of these things that are kind of clear and obvious, and, you know, the whole thing about you know, women getting paid less, right? Yeah, there is the whole, you know, sort of anti-feminist perspective of, like, yeah, women get paid less because they choose to work in different areas. Yeah, but why do they choose to work in different areas? And why are those areas where they choose to work paid less? Right? You know, why is it that the jobs women tend to work at are paid less than men? You know, and it's like, oh, well, you know, it's just about supply and demand. It's just, you know, about how difficult the job is. Dude, if we were going to pay job people based on how difficult and vital their fucking jobs were, then CEOs would make so very little money, and policemen and soldiers and doctors and teachers would make so much fucking money, right? If it was just about how important the job is to society and how difficult and hellish it is, if we honestly paid people according to the skill, effort, and importance of that job in society, then CEOs would not make even a quarter of what they make. So don't give me that bullshit about how, yeah, well, women only get paid so little because they choose to work here in jobs that are paid little. Like, no, there are cultural reasons why women have been basically programmed by society to favor certain kinds of jobs over other kinds of jobs. There are cultural reasons why we have decided to value these jobs less than other jobs, right? And apart from anything else, there have literally been studies whereby people have sent off the same CV to different companies and just changed the gender of the pronouns on the CV, and seen that the same CV sent to the same company is offered different amounts of pay depending on whether it's a man or a woman, right? Like, there are literally studies on this. There is literally the case of the exact same CV, but if it's a man, there's so much more money. being offered for the role. And we can see this in China, right? That, having a man having a boy is seen as so much more prestigious. And so in a country that's got a one-child policy, there are so many more boys than there are women, because there is societal pressure of, well, if you're going to have a kid, you're going to have a boy. We are a sexist society. We are. And the thing is that feminism knows we're a sexist society, and it is about challenging it is about changing society so that it is no longer sexist. But for the reasons I'm about to, explain, it lets itself down and lets these other people speak for it and offer stuff for it, because there are parts of the world where no matter what your perspective is, it is undeniable that sexism still continues, right? There are parts of the world where female genital mutilation continues, right? That is where basically women, young girls who are like pre-puberty have their clitorises cut so that they can't experience sexual pleasure, so that they will be seen as pure, right? And that they won't be able to be sexually exploited because they won't have the ability to feel sexual pleasure. Okay, that's like if someone came along and decided to just, like, yeah, I know the sort of Jewish peoples have established this thing of circumcision and removing the foreskin. Circumcision is not on the same level as female genital mutilation, because female genital mutilation is like if the people who are enacting the circumcision didn't just remove the foreskin, but actively like sliced up the center of your shaft so that you could no longer get hard and experience sexual pleasure, right? Like, somehow you could still pee, but that's it. No more sexual pleasure from your dick, right? That's the thing people don't realize, when they talk about, how, oh, well, men have genital mutilation happening to them as well. Like, no. Female genital mutilation for women is worse because they are literally slicing the part of their genitalia that gives them sexual pleasure in half. That's not good. That's really not good, and it is dangerous and deadly, and it's horrible. And that's just one small way in which there are parts of the world where the sexism is fucking undeniable. The fact that in Saudi Arabia, they literally whip rape victims to death for committing adultery. Except, of course, then that is used as an excuse to hate Muslims, to hate Jewish people, right? These people practice genital mutilation. We must despise them. thing is, there are problems with the world. And feminism acknowledges that. And it's not just feminism. Social justice as a whole is about this, you know. Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQA plus movement. It's all about acknowledging there are problems in the world and we need to work together to stop them. Problem is that a lot of the social justice movement is formed of communities of victims, right? It's okay. I'm going to try and explain this in such a way as it kind of makes sense, okay? Because I can't talk about it as it actually is, because that's politics. that is politics, and you can't. You're gonna be so busy thinking about whose team you're supporting, you're not gonna see the point I'm explaining if I talk about social justice in that way. So let's talk about, you know, World War Z, or at least, you know, this and that. Right? In World War Z, you know, the zombies take over due to whatever, and essentially there is a period of survivalism, of essentially just society has gotten stabilized and society is just about keeping going. It is just about keeping the zombies out, keeping your shit together, and finding the strength to keep goddamn going. But there's still zombies out there. And at a certain point, you've got to go out there and you've got to clear the land of zombies, right? The problem is that under Thatcher, the working class solidarity was destroyed, right? And through this working class solidarity being destroyed, we instead got social justice movements. There has always been social justice movements, right? You know, like there was the suffragettes, but there were movements before them. I mean, you go back, you go as far back as the sort of the British Revolution, the British Civil War, and you know there were effectively civil rights movements going on there in the form of like the levelers and stuff. You know, these religious peoples trying to say, hey, there is another way, let's work together. And I mean, I know it's more complicated than that, but like there have always been movements to ally to ally and organize those who are being shat upon in order to fight for better treatment, right? And, you know, we have seen a periodic success as kind of basically technology has increased and democratized strength, right? In the olden days, it was basically man with bigger stick becomes king because he has bigger stick. And then man with bigger stick takes your food. He is better fed. He is stronger. He is fitter. You are weaker. He keeps taking your food, right? And so you end up with a society driven through essentially like bigger orc make smaller orc, do thing for bigger orc, because bigger orc will always be bigger orc, right? Like you have a control through power. And then gradually, like, technology enables all these different people to get a little bit of power back. Like, farming techniques improve, so now these people can look after themselves a bit. They don't necessarily need to have, you know, the protection of the bigger guys, you know. Once people are being better fed, they can stand up for themselves better, you know. Once tools are improved, then the work isn't so arduous, but in the same way, the different sets of muscles are being worked, and you know, as it gets easier and easier to produce food, you end up with the people who maintained order because, well, they were the bigger, tougher guys. they get fat and lazy, as the people who do the hard work to keep the food going in are eating better and better, are being fitter and fitter, and then you get tools being invented that make it possible so that these people can communicate, so that these people can fight back, and so that you can just, you know, get a whole bunch of peasants together, give them a load of muskets and just say, over there, and, like, you know, maybe, you know, half of them will miss, and, like, you know, a quarter of them won't even be able to fire the damn gun, you know, maybe an eighth of them will, maybe an eighth of them will just have, will just, you know, not be able to, will have the musket explode in their face, or they'll shoot themselves or something. But, like, if you get enough of them, it's easy enough to get so much lead flying in the air that something can happen, right? And so basically technology has enabled the sort of bigger orc is tougher, so he is in charge kind of method of distributing society to change and become more egalitarian as these people have organized and fought back. But what happened with the sort of, you know, the Battle of Orgreave and stuff, when Thatcher got elected, is that she destroyed working class community and working class power. Okay? Instead of it being about organizing to either defeat the enemy or gain concessions from the enemy, it became about surviving the enemy. Right. So, you know, like, you had the suffragettes, you had women's liberation, you had Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. But basically, by the time Thatcher came along, and, you know, what she did to the working class community, it changed how social justice happened, right? And, you know, with the way HIV destroyed the gay community, and it was effectively genocide, right? It wasn't necessarily, you know, intentional. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like Stalin was standing over them going, fuck gay people, fuck, spread the HIV, but at the same time there was an ignorance to the suffering that was going on that meant that it continued and it continued, and the gay community was destroyed. And so, and this was something that even when Tony Blair came along, you know, a lot of Thatcher's policies were not overturned. If anything, a lot of Thatcher's policies were increased and increased. Neoliberalism destroyed the working class, and then it destroyed hope of organization and victory. There is this term that the right wing use called safe spaces, and it is always used derogatorily. Oh, your safe spaces. What are you doing in your safe spaces? Running away to your safe spaces. There is a legitimate reason to need a safe space, right? And the thing is that if you look at it this way, right? It's like the zombies won. You know, the right wing won. You know, the Battle of Orgreave is like the Battle of Yonkers, right? This was the moment when humanity stood and the zombies won. And you know, instead of, you know, the Ridiker plan, what you had was the HIV epidemic. You know, instead of having a planned horrible retreat for survival, what you got instead was a chaotic attempt to survive with so many being killed off. And it was about survival. It was absolutely about survival. It stopped being about solidarity and community and fraternity and started being about individualism. Buying the right food, eating the right, buying the right clothes, eating the right food, going on the right holidays. What's your lifestyle like? You know, being an individual in the world and how you go about the world. The community was destroyed and it became about survival. And so where there are communities now, those communities are safe spaces. Those are the fucking, you know, outposts in a zombie-filled world, right? Outposts of civilization where society is clinging on by the skin of its teeth, and it's just like, fuck, how are we gonna do this, right? Except, you know, zombies are out there waging total war. You might be able to keep your safe space going. You might be able to keep the zombies from breaking through your defenses, but they have the world, and they aren't gonna stop. And we have seen through Bernie Sanders, through Podemos, through Syriza, through Jeremy Corbyn, through the SNP, that like left-wing values can make a difference, that they can have an impact on the world, right? We haven't had a big victory yet, but we have had enough. It's like, you know, there was this period in Roman history when, you know, Hannibal Barca, this guy who, you know, came over the Alps with the mountains and sort of came up with, you know, the whole thing of the pincer movement and how at the Battle of Cannae, and just you wipe out the people because you can surround them with better troops, and like you might have less troops on the battlefield, but it's about who's doing the fighting and stuff like that. You know, Hannibal Barca was terrifying to the Romans, and you had this point whereby the Romans were just, you know, it was a victory when the Romans didn't get fucked in the ass by Hannibal Barca, right? When the Romans did not suffer a catastrophic defeat, it was like, yay! And so you had this, you know, morale-saving strategy for Rome of just leading all these Roman forces around away from Hannibal Barca, right? Just busy being alive and awesome away from the great terrifying monster that's stalking you. And it's like, even if Bernie Sanders doesn't get the Democratic nomination, even if Syriza ultimately is crippled and overcome, even if Jeremy Corbyn doesn't get elected Prime Minister on June the 9th, the fact that the left came so fucking close is a heck of a morale saving thing. Because remember, right, Thatcher basically destroyed the left, right? Thatcher destroyed the left so hard that we celebrated when Tony Blair got elected. Like, here's a right-wing person promising to fuck us over as hard as Thatcher, but hey, at least he pretends to give a shit, right? At least it's sort of maybe a move in the right direction, right? And so the fact that these people, that these left-wing people can get so close, even if they still fail, that is actually a really hopeful thing for a lot of people. It's just like, yeah, we came close. You know, we might have whiffed it at the end, but we came damn close, and it's a morale-saving thing. But in general, social justice has been about just surviving, right? You know, and yeah, the social justice movement has achieved great victories through lobbying and demonstrations and all this stuff, but it's been on the defensive, right? It has been on the defensive, and it's like these little plantations of humanity in the zombie-filled world, managing to take back little tiny plots of land from the zombies and just clear them out and say, no, we're having this space, But it's still just about survival. And the problem is that we aren't actually facing zombies, right? Because zombies, they don't get smarter. No. Yeah, zombies wage total war, but they decay. They die away, right? And so long as, you know, you've got good policies about how you care for your civilization and your people, like, there's an argument in you know, World War Z land of just like, hey, we can just wait this out, right? Every winter, more zombies die. They don't come back, and you know, every winter we get stronger, we get fitter, we rediscover lost technology, and yada yada yada. We can just wait it out. We're not facing zombies who are gonna keep using the same tactics again and again and again. We are facing people. We aren't facing a zombie that's just kind of after blood because of some virus that is just instinctively driving it towards spreading the infection. What we are facing is people with an ideological difference who will do anything to spread that ideological contagion. This is where I start to annoy people. About an hour in, and yeah, this is where the meat of the episode starts. Okay. I'm gonna go and get a Diet Coke, something. Have a cool. So the social justice movement has kind of been like the survivalists, you know, and it's a bit like, you know, Quint's description of the thinking of the Indianapolis and how, and like, you know, sometimes a shark would come along and the guy would scream and holler and shout, and sometimes the shark would go away, and sometimes the shark wouldn't go away. Right? And like, that's how the groups operate, right? Like, all these groups, all these safe spaces, these filter bubbles, right? They group together, they protect their safe space by attacking and pounding and working in groups and driving the people out. And all this language and terminology is just like, don't ask questions, don't talk about it. If you don't agree with us, fuck off, we're not interested. And don't get me wrong, right? This is effective as a deterrent against people from questioning, right? Like, you can't go from, oh, women are equal, to being an anti-feminist without just the squeeze being put on you, right? But problem that leaves is that whilst the social justice movement is attacking and having a go at these people and refusing to offer the slightest level of, not even necessarily compromise, but concession to dignity and respect, right? Like, there is this anger to the social justice movement of, how dare you question our terms? How dare you question our jargon? How dare you not already know? As though every child grows up instinctually knowing what patriarchy means. As though every child instinctually grows up knowing what mansplaining means and manspreading. And you have to explain this shit. People have to learn. You know, you can't grow your ideology by driving people out. I understand why they do it. Because this isn't about taking back the Earth. This is the survivalist compound. This is the fucking zombies come over here and we drive them off and we fucking survive. Which is fine. Problem is that we aren't dealing with fucking zombies. We aren't dealing with fucking sharks. We aren't dealing with some dumb animal that can be scared off. We're dealing with people. People with ideological differences. People who want to fuck you over. And people who have every incentive to make the concessions that you are unwilling to. I've talked before about how white men in society are screwed because they don't have a myth of oppression to give them hope, right? White men know the world is fucked, and they know there's nothing that can be done because they're the people in charge of running the world. And that's, you know, women, black people, trans people, gay people, like, when you have an enemy to focus on, you're saner. Because anytime something goes wrong, it's the enemy, right? It explains so much in your life. Anytime something goes wrong, well, it's the enemy. What are you talking about? It's fucking enemy. And it gives you hope, because if we can just destroy the enemy, if we can just get our people in charge, then everything will be different. If you're a white man, you're in charge. And it's not making a difference. Because people are just assholes. Right? People are greedy and stupid, and even when they have genuinely the best desires for humanity, they make mistakes. We don't get to believe that things will be better if we can get rid of X, Y, or Z. And this is the problem, right? This is why white men fall victim to bigots and misogynists and all these kinds of horrible shitheads. Because whilst the social justice movement is deliberately being obtuse, is deliberately driving people away, is deliberately shunning people who ask questions, and deliberately attacking anyone who doesn't understand, who doesn't agree, is deliberately painting all white men as the enemy. Right? And yes, okay, there is a lot of implied, well, obviously, if you aren't a cunt, you aren't a cunt, so what are you saying? You know, it's like, if I say all white men are horrible bastards who deserve to die, then if you're not a horrible bastard who deserves to die, you shouldn't be offended, because you're not a horrible bastard who deserves to die, right? That's the kind of attitude that you see sometimes among the sort of the social justice movement, is this sort of like, well, if you're a white man and you're not a cockend, you should just be thankful that you're not a cockend and that this doesn't apply to you, right? Any other demographic, any fucking other demographic in the world, you have to be very specific. I'm only talking about these people and these people and these people. People who do bad things are the only people I'm talking about. When it comes to white men, when it comes to cisgendered people, when it comes to heterosexuals, when it comes to people that are defined as the privileged, you no longer have to make the distinction of you're only talking about the douchebags. I mean, you look at all this row that's going on in the sort of the Labour Party over the fact that there are people within the Labour Party who are critical of Israel's foreign policy and Israel's actions. And it's like, there are others within the Labour Party going, what? No, you can't critique Israel. That's anti-Semitism. And at the same time, you know, I absolutely know that because the Labour Party is full of people, and people, and people are sometimes cockends, that there will be genuinely anti-Semitic Nazis in there who are just like, well, yeah, I'm a Nazi, but also I'm a person, and I don't want to get fucked over, so I'm going to back the party of the not getting fucked over, right? But you don't get such concerns when you're talking about white men, right? The very fact that hashtag kill all men can be a thing, the very fact that hashtag not all men is used as like, how dare you, how dare man be questioning of the fact that, how dare he be confused, right? Hashtag not all men, how dare he, you know. You know, it's like, it's totally fine for, you know, the social justice movement will have a go at Donald Trump saying, you know, all these Mexicans are rapists coming over here to steal our jobs. And then people within the social justice movement will write great essays about, you know, men rape, they abuse, they do all these horrible things, and it's like, you're not specifying, right? It is just assumed, oh, well, if you're not a bad man, I'm not talking about you. You don't get to do that with any other demographic, right? Like, I have absolutely no doubt that there are some Jews who are going to be big business CEOs who are greedy as fuck and fucking over the world. You can't say I can't say that statement, you know. I know that in Saudi Arabia there are people who call themselves Muslims who will literally whip rape victims to death. You can't just talk about Muslims in terms of actions that Muslims actually do, though, because that is being Islamophobic. And yet, because white man is seen as being on top, there are no such concerns, right? Insult the white man, degrade the white man, attack the white man when he is confused as to why this is allowed to happen. And again, I know why. I mean, if you're a Nazi, you know, you'll be familiar with analogies involving Skittles, right? Well, imagine you've got 2 bowls of Skittles, right? And one bowl is practically overflowing, right? And the other bowl has got very few Skittles in it, right? The bowl that is overflowing is the bowl of white male characters in fiction. The bowl that is really tiny and has got very few Skittles in it is the bowl of the people of colour. It's the bowl of the women. It's the bowl of gay people and trans people. It's the bowl of any other different demographic, right? And it's like, well, how come it's sexist when we take a Skittle from the bowl of the minority demographic, or the demographic that is a minority representation in fiction, and we add it to the bigger bowl of Skittles, but it's not, unfair when we take a Skittle from the bowl that is overflowing and put it into the one that's not. Why is it sexist why is it racist to cast a character, an Asian character or a black character with a white actor? But why is it then not racist to cast a black actor for a white character? Why is it fair in that scenario seemingly to persecute against the white man? Because the white man's winning. Because the white man, the white cisgendered, heterosexual, what have you, man, there are so many examples of him in fiction. That bowl is overflowing. So it doesn't matter how many Skittles you take from there. There's gonna be more Skittles, right? And it's not even like the M&M analogy that Donald Trump used of just like, well, would you eat? Would you accept a bowl filled with all these different M&Ms if you knew there was a one Skittle, one M&M was in the bowl that was poisonous and it was gonna kill you. And it's like, we're talking about fictional characters here. You know, there is no chance that you take a a white male Skittle and you put it and you take it over and you put in another the other bowl, and suddenly the character is a transgender, Islamic Asian woman. It's not like that's gonna endanger anyone. It's not like you're persecuting against anyone. There's still going to be a fuck ton of white male characters. It's just that you have this set of biases, this double standard of, oh well, you can recast white male characters with characters of different genders and you can rewrite them in different ways, but you can't do the same to make characters who are otherwise into white men. The reason you have that is to achieve balance and fairness and equality, right? And I know that this is why there are these apparent double standards. The reason that you can insult white people and you can insult men and you don't have to add a proviso of only the people who are dickheads is because, well, they're on top of society, right? They are not ever going to get as much shit going on as a result of this double standard as, a black person or a trans person or a woman just experiences in their daily lives, right? I understand why it happens. The problem, though, is that this attitude that we don't have to explain, we don't want to explain, we don't want to answer, we aren't going to accept questions, we're going to attack you if you dare feel the need to ask a question. This attitude is dangerous because whilst you are refusing to engage with the people who don't understand, there are others who are trying to understand, who are providing answers. If you refuse to answer the questions, if you refuse to explain, if you get angry at people who are confused and who have questions or who are misguided and have come to the wrong answers, then you are giving up on them. You are conceding that battle. And again, I get it. I get that these are survivalists in the middle of a country overrun by zombies, and they are just trying to protect the area of their safety, and they can't risk someone coming into the compound who is infected with a zombie idea and that infection spreading throughout their safe space. They need their safe space. They need to crack down on anybody who thinks differently. The problem is that we aren't dealing with zombies who are going to die off. What we are dealing with is people. And people are going to continue being produced. There are always going to be more white men in the world. And if you aren't willing to talk to them, somebody else will. In order to kill off bigotry, in order to kill off sexism, you need to win people round. And we're not. We are not. We are failing. We are failing the young men. We are failing our brothers. And we are failing our sisters too, because as long as we fail to enlighten our brothers as to the better way to see the world and the better way to make the world a better place, we are making sure that the world is going to be worse off for our sisters, because they are going to be mistreated by all these people, by all these brothers that we have given up on. Right? Now, in a zombie war, every person you leave alive outside of your survivalist compound is a zombie waiting to happen. By retreating to our safe spaces, we have left all these people outside the walls, and we are letting them become future zombies. We are letting them become future persecutors and future enemies. Which I suppose is fine if you just want to be a survivalist twatting heads who decide to twatting heads as they come through your door, right? But it's not how you retake the earth. It's not how you rid the world of zombies. It's not how you make the world a better place. You have to attack on multiple fronts at once. Yes, you do have to keep the safe spaces. And yes, it is absolutely right that there are parts of the world, there are parts of the internet where you have a zero tolerance attitude. But equally, we need to have people going out there, speaking to these people and offering another fucking way. And I'm not sure I can do this, because I'm circling the fucking drain, right? But there has to be another way. There has to be another fucking way. And I'm gonna explain to you what I have learned now from my dealings with the people who have, right? Because I have been in such a bad place and I have attracted all these very worst kinds of people, I have learned how they go about recruiting people into their ideology. And I think that feminism and the social justice movement in general could do with learning from these people so that they can understand the kind of threat that they face from these predatory, sadistic fuckers. And they can understand that truly this is not a war that they can afford to ignore because it makes them angry. Right? Because you see, I see that so much, that the reason these people are unwilling to go out there and they are unwilling to talk to these people and answer their questions is that it makes them angry. It upsets them. They're just like, I want to kill you all. It's just like, and I understand it. I understand how it is frustrating and enraging, and it's part of the reason that I ended up sort of writing a character based on the trolls in my own comment section was I needed a straw man to burn up like fuckery, right? I needed some sort of way to allow myself as a moral man to get some fucking revenge, right? And just like I'm not gonna allow myself to engage in this stupid power games, but I need to vent this negativity, and so I write. But it feels fucking crazy to call myself, someone, dealing with shit in a healthy manner, but there are people going about stuff in a worse manner. There are people who genuinely get offended at the idea of why shouldn't we dogpile people. There are genuinely people who can't understand and get agitated and frustrated and angry at the idea that we shouldn't just hound people who disagree with us. And it's like, yeah, these people, they say horrible things about me. These people, they hold opinions that are against what I believe in. Yeah, big fucking whoop. I've been stalked by Nazis. They have sent shit to my house. They have scared my family. They have made me so very, very angry. They have written things. They have done things. The police have gotten involved because of the things that they have done against me. And yeah, they genuinely think I am an aberration upon the world, that I should be dead. And frankly, part of the reason I am still alive is that there is no way in hell I am going to give those fuckers the satisfaction of my death. But you do not become them. You do not become bigoted and intolerant because of their activities. You do not give in to isolationist tendencies. You do not attack those who would disagree with you, because that doesn't help. Like, yeah, maybe it drives people out of your safe space and it keeps your safe space safe, but it doesn't win the fucking war. Doesn't help all these people who are suffering. And there are people suffering out there right now who are being targeted and harassed by all these men that we have failed. We are failing all these men, and we are letting them become monsters because we are unwilling to engage them in conversation and explain the better way to be. We are letting these young men become monsters because we are unwilling to explain their confusion and their questions. We are unwilling to answer and enlighten. We are unwilling to talk to them like they are human fucking beings. Instead, we get angry at them and we condescend and we show such bitterness and anger at how dare they not know? How dare they not know the jargon? At least the fucking alt-right just laughs at you when you don't think cuck is insulting. Feminists will get angry with you if you do not understand their terminology. Because you've got Google, you can do research, because yes, That is always how you fucking win arguments. You tell someone to go away and fucking Google it themselves. I admit, me personally, I don't get swayed by arguments. I think they are pointless. I think debates are fucking pointless. I would rather go away and Google stuff and research stuff myself. But here's the thing, guys. Google is trained by your actions on the internet. You tell a racist to go away and Google something, he's gonna come up with racist results. You tell a sexist to go away and Google something, he's gonna come back with sexist results. We train our media to present us with what we want. So telling someone who disagrees with you to find the answers through their own research is only going to back up what they already think. Because apart from anything else, it's how our brains are wired. You know, I've done these tests upon myself, right? And I really need to blow my nose, so I'm going to wrap up this segment quick and get to the sort of the answer. But I've done these tests on myself, right? Whereby I decided arbitrarily that 7 would become my favourite number. I decided that the Volvo XC90 DS AWD was my favourite car. You know, I have decided that, you know, that young, pretty blonde women and young, pretty ginger women are what I care about. And so now I can only see these things. I only see the number 7. I only see Volvo XC90 DSAWDs. I only see the young, pretty blonde women and the young, pretty ginger women. I only see what my brain has arbitrarily decided is important to me. Right? And this is stuff I have very deliberately, consciously decided I am going to have important to me when I know it was not important before. When it is something that has been your normality throughout the course of your life and has then become a radicalized ideology through interaction with people, telling them to go and Google it, to go and research it, is not going to help. I acknowledge that we need safe spaces, that you can't spend your whole life out in the field trying to convert zombies into being people again. I acknowledge that you can't live your whole life at war, that you do need to come home to a safe space and calm the fuck down. And I entirely also acknowledge that there are going to be people who can never go outside the compound, who must always stay in the compound, and who can only at best attack those who enter the compound that they don't understand, because life is just so fucking stressful and hard. The world is fucked, guys. The world is fucked. Climate change, demographic shifts, technological unemployment, global inequality. The world is fucked. And it's tough. So I understand that there are people who are fighting for social justice but can't actually go out there and spread the good word themselves, and can't actually go out there and talk to people, that they have to stay in their safe spaces and they have to speak with people who speak the same language and understand things the same, because they can't deal with the social burden of trying to explain. I get that. But we are failing the young men. Now, I'm going to go away and blow my nose, and then I will be back to kind of offer a solution. The hilarious thing about the term social justice warrior is that the people it can most fairly be applied to, the people who, among the social justice movement, are most likely to be aggressive and violent with those they disagree with, they aren't warriors at all. Warrior implies someone who goes to war, who will bring the pain to the enemy. social justice warriors aren't warriors at all. They are social justice guardians at best. They exist to beat back the enemy from the gates. That's it. There has been no social justice movement for change. Not really. Even things like, Bernie Sanders and Syriza and Jeremy Corbyn has been seen as just pushing back the Overton window, as just self-defense, dragging the political establishment leftwards because we're being destroyed, right? It's not an offensive, it's a defensive. It's guarding, it's fighting back the hordes, not attacking, not warring. And this is a problem, because whilst our social justice guardians have been keeping the safe spaces safe, the Nazi movement improvers, the NMI, they have been succeeding in improving the situation for the Nazi movement. Because you see, whilst the social justice guardians are refusing to answer the questions of the confused, the NMI aren't. The NMI will more than gladly explain and empower. The NMI will say, "Hey brother, I see you're sad. Let me hear of your woes. I can offer you another way. I can help you find solace in your identity and in yourself, and I can help you feel confident in yourself. I can let you have brothers. I can let you have community. I can offer you a way to understand the world that the social justice guardians will not." What's the phrase? Love bombing? It's how cults are formed. I mean, the very fact that I have a hate cult formed in my name against me. The esoteric jihadists. You give them a name, you give them targets, you give them rules, you give them memes, you give them jokes, you give them a sense of identity, you give them a communal language, and you say, "Brothers, we are one, we are mighty, now we will go out and we will wage war." And what are the social justice guardians doing? Twatting anyone who disagrees with them. Twatting anyone who doesn't seem to understand or has questions. The world is full of shitheads. The world is full of well-meaning buffoons. The world is full of sadistic bastards. And for the social justice movement to succeed, it must win over every single fucking one of them. And it is not. Because it is angry and it is hurt and it just wants to survive. While it does so, the NMI are improving. They are going out there and they are converting people. Because whilst the feminists are taking the piss out of the men who don't understand, while the feminists are insulting and attacking men who question and want to know more, the Nazis are more than glad to explain themselves. The Nazis are more than glad to speak nicely, speak softly, and say, "Hey buddy, we can talk about this, I'm your friend." I've witnessed this over and over again over the last year. The people involved in the social justice movement will slam the door in your face. They will call you all kinds of horrible things. They will disown you. They will insult you. They will make you hurt. And then they will leave you out alone in the cold. But the Nazis will come up to you and they'll put their hands around you and they'll say, "Hey buddy, what's up? Oh, that's so sad. Oh, that's so very sad. Come, I have friends. Come, you know him, Goebbels. Yes, Goebbels, Hitler. Yes, come on, Eichmann, come on over here. Yes. Come, talk to us. Mango, get over here! There's a guy who needs some doctoring to deal with him." People come over and they listen to your problems and they offer you friendliness and advice, and they listen and they offer community and happiness, and they buoy you up, and they empower you, and they make you feel better, and they fill your head with toxic bullshit. We should not be leaving the disaffected young men to have their heads filled with toxic bullshit because we are unwilling to treat them as equals. Oh, they're privileged. Oh, but they're partaking in this stuff. Oh, but they don't understand. They're ignorant. They think some things that we disagree with. And so it's better to leave them to the mercies of the Nazis. It's better to leave them to be brainwashed by the toxic fuckwits. At the end of the day, we need to stop treating white men with contempt. We need to stop treating those who don't understand with contempt. We need to stop treating those we disagree with contempt. We need to go out there and win hearts and minds. We need to go out there and explain ourselves. Yes, again and again and again, we need to explain, we need to answer, we need to offer another way. And yes, if a fucker tries his luck again, we cut the bitch. Right? If the fucker is gonna be a shithead over and over and over, then you say, "Hey brothers, this guy is dead to us." But the rest, those who don't repeatedly show themselves to be horrible bastards, those who are just misguided and lost, we need to offer them a better way. And it's like, anytime Israel is dickish, there are calls there are calls from the Jewish population saying, "Hey, we need to let the world know this shit ain't right." Anytime people who claim to be Muslim do horrible things, other Muslims will say, "Hey, this shit ain't right." They will offer a better way. They will offer a better path. You know? Even for all the feminazis that are out there, there are feminists who are sex positive and who say, "Hey dudes, it's okay. It's okay that you've got fetishes. It's okay that you got kinks. You can be a guy who likes being dominant, just so long as you're safe, sane, and consensual." Right? There isn't a men's rights group that is showing the better way to be. There isn't a white pride group that can show a better way to be, right? Because let's be clear, right? I'm British and I fucking love my country. I am English and I goddamn love my country. We've done a lot wrong. But we've also done a lot of things I love. You know? I mean, it's tea from India. I love my mug of Tetley Redbush in the morning. I mean, okay, morning is relative for me because I've got a fucked up sleeping pattern, but I love it with my breakfast, whenever that time of the day is for me. I love a curry from India. I love pizza from Italy, you know. I love all these amazing characters and shows, and I love English life. I love our NHS. I love the fact that we didn't have to have a proper revolution. I love the fact that I love our history of civil disobedience and protest, and the way our establishment generally concedes just enough. I love our history. Not in terms of, not whitewashing, the sins of our past, but, I love the richness and the depth, and I love how multicultural we are. And yeah, I love English people. Some of us can be right fucking stupid, but I love our culture. And I love how polite we are. I love how the most chilling moment that can ever come from an English person is when they are very polite and very quiet, and they are very, very kind, and just like, and now I'm going to fuck you. I love... And you know what? It is possible to not be a racist and still have aesthetic preferences with regards to sex, right? I mean, it's like there are absolutely, there are so many beautiful and gorgeous women of so many different ethnicities out there, right? But equally, like, it's fine for you as a person to have preferences. Like, so long as you're not discriminating against people, it's like, it's like you don't have to be, literally willing to fuck someone in order to treat them with respect, right? Lord knows if that were the case, then, men would have no rights. because men fuck women, right? Like, if it was just based on you have to be willing to fuck someone in order for them to have rights, then we would not live in a world where men have the rights. No. You can have preferences. You can be proud of your history despite the fact that it fucked up. You can look back at the past and and take a certain strategic appreciation of how your people had achieved such a peak of empire growth, right? Like, you can be interested in the military history of your country and feel a certain amount of satisfaction at how far your empire managed to grow, right? You can you can be proud of the achievements your country made while acknowledging the problems that were part of that, right? Because I admit it, I am proud that Britain once had an empire. I'm not proud of how that empire was made up, and if I had been alive at the time, I would have been very critical of that empire, and I'd have been pushing for better treatment of these people and those people. But it is possible to do these things in such a way as you're not a cockend, right? It is possible to to have a mild sexual preference for blonde people or white people. It is possible to do that and not be a cockend. It is possible to like a certain kind of masculinity so long as you are not a cockend about it, right? You can engage and take pride in the traditions of stereotypical manliness whilst leaving the worst parts of it behind, right? Like, you can joke if you want to about, the less savory parts of masculinity, so long as you aren't actually inflicting those horrible parts onto other people, right? I mean, for God's sake, I write vor fiction, for fuck's sake. If that is not engaging in a fetish that is only possible but in the land of fiction, I'm not entirely sure what is, right? You can have opinions that clash with other people's identities so long as you acknowledge that it is a product of your biases, your upbringing, your culture, and that you're not gonna be a dick about it. I mean, I'm an anti-theist, right? That means I genuinely don't like religion, and I don't think religion should exist, but I've read history books. I know that, historically speaking, oppressing people to stop the religion being a thing does not work. And also, it's mega dickish, right? Like, you can be critical of a religion without being a dick to the people who hold that religion, right? I am critical of religions for how they can be exploited to do harm, but I am critical of the institutions that allow this to happen. I am critical of Saudi Arabia because there is no distinction between church and state. I am critical of America because there is no distinction between church and state. I am critical of Israel because of its foreign policies. Right? I am not critical of a country because it's Islamic, it's Christian, it's Jewish. I'm critical because the lack of a distinction between church and state means that this system that could be exploited is being exploited to allow horrible shit to happen. And I am not having a go at the people who hold that faith peacefully. Right? I am not having a go at people who are Islamic or Jewish or Christian. I'm having a go at state institutions being run according to these religions, because these religions can be exploited and interpreted in such a way that they excuse atrocities. Well, we've got to do this horrible thing because it says so in here. And heck, in America, we see how this happens even with man-made stuff, right? The Constitution was written by men. and it was designed to be amended, right? And besides, you know, people constantly champion the amendments they like, right? And yet, at the same time, they will cling to the Constitution and their specific interpretation of the Constitution as a reason why they should oppress others. And it's like, this is why I'm actually proud that Britain doesn't have a written constitution, because we can't then use that as an exploitative point, right? When you have a written constitution, you can interpret it however the fuck you like, and then justify it with, well, it's in the Constitution. Whereas in Britain, we have no written constitution. What we have is the people and the elected representatives of those people who serve the Queen, right? Like, okay, the Queen basically has no power, but the idea is that because there is somebody else higher up the chain who is serving the people, that you can't just do what you fucking well want. You can't just say the interpretation that fucks over the people because, well, the law says so, right? You can't fuck over the people and ignore what the people want because of a piece of paper, right? And I have seen people who are like, who are critical of democracy because, well, you know, people can vote for horrible things. People voted for Hitler. People voted for Brexit. People voted for Trump. Yeah, the reason they voted for those things was because the left let them down. The left stopped talking to people. The left stopped talking to the working class. The left stopped talking to the white men. The left gave up on them. The left said, you can either make it through our strict entry protocols or you can fuck off. And whilst they were telling people to fuck off, the Nazis were saying, hey, brothers, come join us. We have wine and we have women. Hey. It doesn't matter that they didn't actually have wine and women. They offer you a community. They offer you an open door whilst the social justice movement is offering you a closed door. Which door are you going to go for? The one that's locked to you and telling you to fuck off, or the one that's reaching out to you with open arms and saying, come on, there's another way. That's why things are fucked right now. Because we have given up. We have conceded the world to the Nazis, because the Nazis are the people going out there, talking to people, offering them solace and community and friendship, whilst we are shutting the door on these people, telling them to fuck off, and we don't like them. And yes, I am fully on board with, you know, punching Nazis in the face, because frankly, if you are in favour of genocide, you are a danger to the vast majority of people and you deserve to die. But equally, there are going to be people lured over to that belief system because the social justice movement isn't bothering to explain itself. The social justice movement isn't bothering to approach these people and offer them a better way. It isn't bothering to reach out and offer friendship and empowerment. We say a rising tide lifts all boats, but we don't bother to explain how. We don't bother to explain how feminism is actually also a movement for men. We don't bother to explain how actually the patriarchy fucks over other men, fucks over men as well, because we don't bother to explain how the very sexism that fucks over women also fucks over men, because thanks to sexism, thanks to the patriarchy, thanks to sexism against women, a woman is seen as a victim, and so therefore a man can never be seen as a victim. Thanks to sexism against women, male victims of rape are not acknowledged. They are not given any kind of treatment. Thanks to sexism against women, it is not possible for men to feel good about themselves in terms of their looks, because we sexually objectify women and men are judged on their actions, and so there is no good way for a man to feel like he has a commodifiable value in the world, because we don't objectify men. And yeah, women don't want to be sexually objectified. Sexual objectification is a bad thing, but like, men have so little of it that they don't feel valued. They don't feel like there is a way they can be valued. Men feel like they must. You look at the stories we are told, you know. Yes, women are objectified, but look at it this way. Look at it from the man's perspective, you know. The man has to, you know, save all of Middle Earth. He has to defeat the evil empire. He has to do all these great things. The woman just has to look pretty. The problem, of course, is that the women can only look pretty. Right? That's the issue, you know. The man is trapped into working his arse out for the chance to know a woman. A woman is forced to live the entirety of her life in the hopes of becoming an object that will be treated like shit anyway. There is the fact that because women are seen as objects of desire who are victims, that when a woman commits pedophilia, there is a kind of fucked up reaction among this, you know, patriarchal society that the boy should be pleased because, oh yeah, he got it with a hot girl. Right, never mind that this is a minor who can't fucking consent with an adult. There is this such inbuilt sexist bullshit saying that women are objects of desire and men are sex-fueled animals for women, that we, you know, again, it's like, you know, the whole thing of, you know, the trans people are a danger because men can go into the girls' toilets, right? We don't care about the boys. There's, you know, the boys must clearly want it, but the girls will get preyed upon, and that'll be bad. I mean, of course, you know, there is also the fact that, you know, we have a go at trans people saying, oh, well, you know, what if people who commit sexual assault use it as a way to get into... Guys, people who commit sexual assault do not give a shit that it says woman on the door. They don't give a shit if... You could literally have a guy standing outside the toilet with a fucking AK-47 saying, you gotta go in there. You gotta be a woman to go in there. Like, he doesn't care. And it's apart from everything else, like, guys who are going to go into the toilet to commit sexual assault don't need to go into the toilet to commit sexual assault, right? Women are vulnerable in lots and lots of different places in society. And again, it's like, trans people are dangerous because it could be used as an exploitation for people to commit sexual assault. And then you vote for a guy who brags about committing sexual assault. There are problems with this world. And there are problems that only the social justice movement can fix. But it's not doing a good job of fixing them because it's just focusing on survival, not on winning the fucking war. Not on winning round all these people. Anyway. I'm gonna go and get some food now. See ya. And yeah, I'm sorry for basically all of the offending that will have happened, because pretty much everybody across all the spectrums of time in the multiverse will probably have some reason to despise me after this. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. See you. Thank you for watching my main channel. Please remember to leave a like, favourite and comment. Shout out to the dislike club. Subscribe if you like what you saw, and share if you know someone who might be interested in the contents of this video. If you would like to help ensure more videos get made, there are a few options available to you. You can whitelist this channel in your adblock software to ensure what ad revenue you provide has a chance of making its way to me. If you sign up to make a regular monthly donation through my Patreon, then you will get to watch a selection of videos available exclusively to my Patreon supporters over at my Patreon page. One-off donations are payable through PayPal, or if that doesn't suit your sensibilities, you can gift items through Steam or Amazon via my public wish lists. Obviously, I don't expect anything, and the vast majority of my videos will remain free and ad-supported. All that remains is to say Trump should be impeached, the genocidal must be stopped, and institute universal basic income now.